are now listening to the War Report Podcast Network.
What is up, everybody? Welcome back to the College Loop Podcast of 249 of the College Loop Podcast. I'm Dylan Larck, IEBoyTech on Twitter. Here to talk to you about the latest and what we saw yesterday's news. Today's the reaction show for that game that happened yesterday, and I and the Auburn family in and of itself have some thoughts. As many of you know, Auburn did not play well yesterday, and it resulted in a very demoralizing loss to a lesser talented team. Auburn was outmatched in almost every single category yesterday to a team that they should have beaten by, at the minimum of the spread, 12. Auburn came out sloppy offensively and defensively. They finished the game sloppily on offense. The defense stepped up in the second half. I'll get to all that in a second whenever we go through each individual part of this game, but immediate thoughts. I don't know what more you have to see out of Payton Thorne. That was a absolutely abysmal performance for a guy who is a fifth-year senior in college football, a guy that throughout the entirety of the offseason, all we heard about was how improved he's going to be. And, I mean, we heard so much about it that I took the bait. I went into the season optimistic in what I was going to see of Payton Thorne. And what I saw yesterday was the same quarterback I saw last year, unable to make other reads. You were given a way better wide receiver room than you had last year. Your offensive line, the jury's still out on how improved it actually is, but it does seem to play a lot better, and I can't put the full blame on the offensive line like what it seemed the blame was going to be put on due to the injuries on the line. There's nothing that you can put up on Payton Thorne in front of Payton Thorne right now that he can put up the blame on besides himself. That was the worst performance that I would take 10 New Mexico State losses before I took a loss yesterday like that again. At least New Mexico State had the due diligence of absolutely giving us no chance of winning the game from start to finish. Cal gave Auburn every opportunity, and every single time Auburn got it, they squandered it. Every single chance Auburn had to win that football game yesterday, Auburn blew it in any and every way possible. I think 2 out of the 3 touchdowns that Cal had were due to turnovers. I think they scored 2 off of just turnovers in general. I don't know. Looking at Payton Thorne's stats, I mean, 14 of 27, 165 yards, 1 touchdown, 4 interceptions, sacked 3 times. No quarterback, no matter what level of the game it is at, no quarterback will be going into the next week with a 1 touchdown to 4 interception ratio with their job still confidently intact. No quarterback should ever be able to be given that luxury of throwing 4 interceptions in a game to a lesser opponent, losing that game, and going to the next week with their job. No one. And if he does go into next week with his job, that leash should be to the owner's hand. Like, that's what I'm expecting. It's a dog that you're expecting to run off at any given time, and you have a stranglehold on the leash. If he has, and I don't even know what the plan is. We'll hear more on Monday again whenever Hugh Freeze has his press conference about this, because someone's going to ask the question about the quarterback, because what was put on tape was absolutely abysmal. New Mexico, we'll preview them throughout the week. My confidence level in Mexico is strictly just falling ever so farther and farther down. I don't think Auburn's going to lose that game, but I would not be surprised if it happened. Auburn might go 0-2 in teams in the state of New Mexico if a game happens like that again, because that was the absolute worst. Again, New Mexico State was a much better loss than this one was, because it's just abysmal. It's just abysmal. And I got some comments where I thank everybody for getting the comments, because I think everyone is going to be the same amount of frustrated as I am. Daniel Denny, Hank will never start unless PT is injured. You have a picture of Payton Thorne as your profile picture. Stuart George, there are no excuses. Teresa, how you doing, Teresa? Bad day for orange and blue. Bad day for Carolina blue and black as well. I had to deal with Payton Thorne with his nonsense, and then I had to deal with Bryce Young doing what he did today. So that was something. Darius Pugh, if we keep this up, Freeze 4 is gone. Already seeing Perry post about Lagway. I do not think that we can. I'm not going to get that far in the negative yet. I don't think Auburn's going to lose any of their players right now. Because I think it's just a 1-year thing. And Auburn has the opportunity to get better. Hashtag it's only week 2. Because I'm going to keep that meme going because I said it for some reason on the War Report yesterday and was immediately memed for it. Ernest Von Nice Walker White jersey, Dylan. Actually, this is a Robbie Ashford jersey, but it could be a Walker White jersey if you just keep looking at it from the front side of it. But yeah, yesterday was so bad. I went into last year talking about how bad Payton Thorne was and why Robbie Ashford should go in. And I did the whole shtick. I had the Robbie Ashford stick all year long last year. All year long. Robbie Ashford, I preached it from the mountaintops. And I lived and died by my opinion. I died by it mostly because Robbie Ashford transferred out. I then went into this year with some optimism on whether or not Payton Thorne was going to be a much better quarterback. Turns out he is not. I don't know what you need to see on paper. I don't know what you need to see on film. I don't know. I'm not in the coach. I'm not going to be in the coaching office. I'm not a coach. I'm not getting paid by Auburn to coach up this offense. But this is terrible. That you cannot go into this week fully confident in Payton Thorne to get the job done. Arkansas is in 2 weeks. Arkansas is not the Arkansas team that we thought they were going to be. We saw that with how they played against Oklahoma State. Oklahoma State might not be a good team, but Arkansas had that game in hand for a good chunk of it. The Oklahoma State came back and won the game, but Oklahoma State is a top 25 team per the early rankings of the season. Arkansas can come into Jordan-Hare and take down Auburn if something is not changed, if something is not fixed in this offense. New Mexico can come in and give Auburn a run for their money. Oklahoma will come into Auburn and take down the Tigers if they continue to play like this on offense. And don't even get me started on what will happen when Auburn travels to Athens if the offense continues to play like this. I'm going to get off the Payton Thorne train because I think this entire episode is going to be about me just kind of throwing Payton Thorne on the bus because I think there was a lot of issues with the offense that we saw. I'm not going to put the entire blame of this loss on to Payton Thorne. Yes, he had 4 interceptions, but the play calling was terrible. This game falls just as much onto the hands of Payton Thorne and the coaches just as much as Payton Thorne. This is the worst called offensive game I have seen. Last week we saw Payton Thorne throwing the ball down the field all over the place to the Freeze. I guess the Freeze 4 all got a catch, but Malcolm Simmons, Perry Thompson, Cam Coleman, and I'll even throw Keandre into that. Keandre Lambert-Smith also had a really good game last week versus Alabama A&M. We all took the bait. I took the bait. I had 3 episodes go up where I talked about how good Auburn looked against Alabama A&M and how it was going to transition to the rest of the season. Yeah. For some reason, the continuous what's the word I want to look for here? The propaganda I guess I can use here for this wide receiver core was evident because they scored in that first drive and they almost threw a pick 6 on that drive. The ball didn't hit the ground. Cam Coleman had 6 targets, only had 2 catches. Keandre Lambert-Smith had 5 targets, only had 2 catches. Rivaldo Fairweather, very rarely used, had 2 catches on 3 targets. I don't understand why, looking even further down, Malcolm Simmons only got 1 catch. Perry Thompson didn't get a single target. And I'm trying to remember, I think Mike G posted the snap counts. I think Perry's was at like 3, Malcolm's was at 5. And the guys we've been hearing about all through the fall camps about how great they've looked and how they've stood out amongst the rest of the wide receiver room, and you're not getting them the ball. You are targeting Cam Coleman. You are targeting Keandre Lambert-Smith, which those are your 2 best receivers, which teams do that. You target your best receivers. But if Cam Coleman is at one point hurt, but if Cam Coleman is completely double teamed, Payton Thorne, and this kind of goes to the coaching and Payton Thorne in the same light, Payton Thorne very rarely made the second read on a pass play. I think only one out of those 4 interceptions that he had was he actually under duress and was getting hit, and it was that one to Country Smith where it was underthrown in the middle of the field. I think it might have been a third one, or it was a second one because the third and fourth one had happened later on in the game. It just comes down to the play calling. They continuously tried to preach how good the wide receiver core is to the recruits in the stands. And by doing that, all they did was slaughter any chance they had of winning the game offensively. The game plan for this game was to show off the freeze 4, to show off what Auburn is doing recruiting-wise, the talent that they are bringing in. The run game did not happen. There was no run game. None whatsoever. Jarquez Hunter had 12 carries for 77 yards. He had 5.7 yards per carry, but there were some parts of the game where I didn't see Jarquez didn't get a touch in some carries until it was like 3rd and 17. Damari Alston only had 2 carries. Jeremiah Cobb only had 1 carry. That can never happen when you have a running back by committee, and all offseason long you have talked about how the running backs and how your run game is going to be the best part of your team. That is something that Hugh Freeze said at SEC Media Days in front of the entirety of the Southeastern all the podcasts, all the newspapers, all the magazines, all the websites. You said in front of all of those outlets that the run game was going to be the best part of your team. We are 2 games into this year, and there has not been a 100-yard rusher on this team yet. And yes, a running back by committee does not usually mean you get that, but you're not even getting close to 2 guys being added up to 100 yards. Jarquez Hunter had 77. He had 68 total yards. Damari Alston had 10. Jeremiah only had 1 carry, and he got the line of scrimmage. You cannot just rely solely on your passing game, especially when it's not developed yet. Payton Thorne isn't making those reads. He is looking at the first guy, and he's throwing the ball. You cannot call plays like that whenever you have a running back room that is built to help out your passing game. I saw several times in this game where Auburn continuously relied on the play action pass. You cannot run the play action pass unless you are running the ball. The entire part of play action is to fake the run and pass the ball quickly down the middle of the field. Intermediate passing game, which I'll get to in a second because Auburn still doesn't have one of those, allegedly. By allegedly, I mean actually doesn't have one. You gave up on the run game, and then you tried to fake the run. At that point, they're sending the blitz on you every single time. The O-line wasn't doing much to stop. Payton Thorne got sacked 3 times, and I'm sure he got hurt a lot more. I don't know where to find those stats at, but they blitzed a lot. Cal blitzed against Auburn a lot in this game. And if Payton Thorne wasn't getting hit, he was making an errant throw because he either didn't have the time to make the read, which I would love to give him the benefit of the doubt of, but a lot of times he wasn't turning around and finding the other guy. I saw several times where Keandre Lambert-Smith, the guy who had the second most targets on the team, was open in the middle of the field, and he's still throwing the ball down the field, still throwing it deep. Auburn has the opportunity with this wide receiver room to incorporate the passing attack with the rush attack. Next year, whenever you have an offense and you have more receivers and you have more offensive linemen and you have a quarterback that you are wanting to build this team around for the future, you can start incorporating more and more of this deep ball passing that we saw against Alabama A&M and that they tried to force into the Cal game. You don't have that with Payton Thorne. He doesn't have the arm strength for it. He doesn't have the ability to read a blitz well enough to get the ball out quickly. Fernando Mendoza on the other side of the ball had that. No one expected that from him. I'll get to the defense more in a second because I think the defense actually was the best part of this team, and I don't think it's any shocker whatsoever. But watching this team and watching what they were calling, a lot of it falls on the coaching. Going back to the second to last interception, the Cam Coleman one, throwing it deep down the field. Cam Coleman was hurt. He caught the ball in the middle of the field, got dinged up in the arm. They called hurry up, and instead of telling Cam to go down or to kind of get out of the game real quick so they can give Cal the chance to sub, but why weren't you telling your wide receiver to go down? Especially a guy you've been targeting so much in this game. And the next play, you call a play designed to go to Cam Coleman. You give a 50-50 ball, which I'm going to use the Warport example here, an 80-20 ball that we've been kind of bragging about with the, Cam Coleman is 6'3". He's the best wide receiver talent Auburn may have ever seen, ever. And you throw a ball up whenever he doesn't have an arm. He doesn't have his arm to catch the ball with. And yeah, he caught one-handed balls in practice before. Why are we trusting him to do that in game? I'm sure he could do it, but not when his other arm is hurt. You tell your receiver to go down. You don't put your true freshman wide receiver in harm's way like that. You tell him to go down. Not only was he was right next to the sideline, there's also the mics inside the helmets that coaches can use to talk to players. You tell your player to go down. Yes, you're wanting to run hurry up. That is a free timeout. It's a free timeout if you tell your player to go down. And you don't put him in harm's way with the next play. I am eagerly awaiting this press conference tomorrow to hear what Hugh Freeze has to say. Because I know the press conference after the game was not very good. It was 5 minutes long. Just kind of got it and got out. I wouldn't want to talk about the loss either. I probably thought the coach should be out there too. I'd say, yeah, I need to watch film before I can answer questions about what I want to do with this team next. Everything over the offseason that we've heard said that this was going to be a new look offense. What I saw yesterday was the exact same stupid crap that we saw last year. Same thing. No one's making reads. The play calling is abysmal, and you're abandoning parts of your game that you need to rely on. Jarquez Hunter should be getting more carries. I don't want to say getting more carries than 12, but Payton Thorne, I guess, accounted for sacks. Payton Thorne should never be getting 15 carries a game. Should never have to rely on Payton Thorne having to run the ball home. And yeah, he got a rush touchdown. He got the game closer than it would have been. Auburn should have lost this game by a lot more than what it was. This game probably should have been This should have been closer to what Penn State did to Auburn in Jordan-Hare Stadium during Brian Harson's tenure. That's what this game reminded me of, was the Brian Harsin tenure. And I'm not of the I hate people that are saying that Auburn should fire Hugh Freeze. That is not any kind of sentiment you should get from what I'm saying at all. All I'm saying is something needs to change. Call the plays that your team is built for, not the plays that you want to build your team up to. Right now, this team is not built for the deep ball passing attack. They were able to do that against Alabama A&M because Alabama A&M. And what we've heard from practice is Hank Brown does have the best deep ball out of the quarterback room. If that's the case, then why are you not giving him the opportunities to throw the ball deep? Why not? I got some more comments to go through here. See, Adarius Pugh. Also, where'd you get the hat? The hat I got from Alumni Hall. Alumni Hall say it's a puka hat. It's like the same one as the Auburn baby blue hats. Ernst Vaughn, yeah, knew it was Robbie Ashford. I wouldn't mind getting a Walker White jersey. I would just have to pay more money for it. Talking about the UTSA, the other one. The UTSA lose yesterday, Teresa. Oh, that's sad. Entire game was like the Twilight Zone. Completely agree. The transfer portal / NIL has leveled the playing field for these lower tier teams. Just look around college football so far. I mean, that's the point of the transfer portal. The transfer portal and NIL is supposed to level the playing field. But Auburn still has a talent gap there. There's still a massive talent gap between Auburn and Cal. That was just an out coaching effort by Justin Wilcox and all the Golden Bears. That's all it was. It was out coaching. I'm not gonna say what your comment is, Thomas, out loud, but I am starting to agree. Obi-Wan Kenobi, praying that our stud freshman stays after Thorne leaves. With an average quarterback, this is 8-4 team. With Thorne, we're 6-6 at best. I mean, it's up to Hugh Freeze. Hugh Freeze has been talking about how Payton Thorne is different, and he's obviously not. And there was a tweet I saw. I wish I could see remember who it was so I can attribute it to him, because I don't want to take whoever said this as a quote out of for myself. But someone said they would rather have a true freshman making freshman mistakes than have a fifth-year senior making freshman mistakes. Like, I don't think I'd be of the context of if Hank Brown goes in and doesn't perform up to the level of caliber that we were expecting of Payton Thorne to be this year, and that was just being average, I don't think I'd be upset. I think I would admire the chance to see a new quarterback take over after what we saw of Payton Thorne. Clearly, the Payton Thorne experiment isn't working out. Why not try the guy who was the best quarterback on the field against Maryland? Whether or not that play was, I mean, I've said it on record before that I thought it was kind of a manner of Maryland's defense was more tired than Hank Brown was, and that's why he kind of took over. But maybe this is an opportunity for him to, prove everybody that he is the quarterback, that he is going to be the guy that needs to take over. And I don't think that you're going to see, you're not going to see Walker White go in. I don't think so. It would have to be a dire, emergency situation for Walker White to burn Walker White's red shirt. I think you're going to see either Payton Thorne or Hank Brown at quarterback for Auburn this year. I think Holden Gurner's already out the door. I think as soon as the season is over with, Holden Gurner's entering the portal. I don't think that's a hot take. I think that is very obvious. I think that's the truth. As soon as the season's over with, Holden Gurner will enter the portal. So you're looking at one of two options. You have Payton Thorne that you're going to hope and pray that he can shift the right gears and turn into the quarterback that was promised by Hugh Freeze all throughout this offseason, the spring, the fall, the summer, all that jazz. You're hoping that he can do that, or you give your red shirt freshman a chance in Hank Brown. You have one or two options. One of those sounds a lot better than the other to me. Darius Pugh, what about Shorts calling and tagging Harsin and calling him a bum? Harsin probably blocked him, but yeah, that's the feeling everyone gets from the game. The game felt like a Brian Harsin coached Auburn team. I remember I was there for the San Jose State game where Auburn should have lost to San Jose State. They should have lost to San Jose State. That's how this game felt. Except Auburn lost in this sense. This game, one of the most painful losses I have ever seen because Auburn had every opportunity to win the game. It's up there in terms of painful losses I've watched. UTSA lost to Texas State. I'm subscribed to Texas State as daughter of UTSA alum. House divided. And Jordan McLeod's not the quarterback for Texas State now, if I'm not mistaken. The former JMU legend himself. Yeah, Meep still forever and always, but just looking at Auburn, there's so many mistakes offensively, and one of them I'm going to talk about a little bit. Why was Towns Magoo put in there to kick a 61-yarder? I understand that the clock is running out, but why are you putting a true freshman to kick a 61-yard field goal as the clock expires? That's my never. I would have rather just the opportunity to throw it deep. I mean, you've already thrown at that point. I think you've already thrown the one interception, or maybe you've thrown the two at that point. But just go for the touchdown. You have there's so few. I feel like there's more of a chance of getting points off of a Hail Mary than there is to get a 61-yard field goal. And I don't doubt that Towns could have done it. I also felt like you're throwing a freshman to a very bad situation that, hey, we're trying to get points. I think Auburn should have definitely have just thrown it deep and see what happened. I think that's what could have happened. Kind of shifting gears a little bit to the defensive side of the ball. That first half was terrible. We saw what we saw against Alabama A&M late in the game, where they were able to throw these quick little slant routes and able to get the ball down the field quickly and efficiently before the Auburn defensive line was able to get to the quarterback. Fernando Mendoza, a guy who I'll apologize to, I'll give him his due diligence. I mean, he was incredible. He was the better quarterback on the field, and it was not particularly close. He was the best quarterback. Auburn, he played like he was a All-American level quarterback. That's what he played like. I don't know if he will be one of those, but he definitely played like he can be. 25 of 36, 233 yards, and 2 touchdowns. There was a large part of this game where I don't recall if he threw an incompletion. I think he went 12 for 12 before he finally threw an incompletion in this game. Auburn's secondary looked bad. It looked terrible in the first half. Keontae Scott did not look like he should be on the boundary. Kyan Lee looked like he should have looked last year. He looked like sophomore slump was coming up. And Antonio Kite came in and did not really help the case of the backups. The trio of corners just were not prepared for this game. They were not. I feel like the game plan was to shut down the run game. That's what I feel like the game plan was to shut down the run game, which they did. Jay Knott, who was one of the top running backs in the country, only had 11 yards. 1.1 yards per carry for Jay Knott. Now, their backup running back was able to get 53 yards, which I think that means they just kind of very, very adequately keyed in on Jay Knott. But I don't think they were prepared for the passing game. They made adjustments. I'll give them the credit. Auburn made the adjustments in the second half on the defense. DJ Jerkin and Charles Kelly both. They got the defense in line. I think that they only gave up 7 points in the second half. I would say the defense only really gave up 7 points in this game. Just them being put in two bad situations with the turnovers, because I think 14 of the 21 points were scored from Cal off of turnovers. But the defense played great in the second half. The secondary was able to actually force some incompletions. The defensive line was getting more and more pressure. We saw that they were finally getting sacks. That wasn't happening in the first half. The first half for Auburn was strictly just getting to the quarterback, but not quick enough before he got the ball out. And a completion was made down the field. I think that Auburn's going to rely heavily on this defense if something is not shifted on the offense. Keldrick Falk played his heart out in this game. So much so that I'll get to him more in a second when I get to my my awards of the week. But the secondary has got to play 4 whole quarters. Because looking down the line, Arkansas is going to be more of a kind of a dual pro style scheme. They have the opportunity to run with Taylon Green while also running with Quentin Jackson, but they can pass the ball if they need to. Oklahoma's going to be a pass first team. Georgia's going to be a pass first team. Missouri's a pass first team. Kentucky's a pass first team. Alabama is a mix as well. And A&M. There are so many pass first teams down the line. Auburn can key in on the run game very quickly. The pass game, they needed 2 quarters to adjust. And when you're playing a team that in a couple weeks, named Georgia, that has a lot of talent all over the place, you're not going to have 2 quarters worth of time to salvage yourself. You're not. It's not going to happen. Auburn's going to have to step up a little bit in the film study and get ready to key on some different parts, especially if something doesn't change offensively. And you're getting forced in the short yardage situations, short field situations where the offense kind of just sets you up bad. But overall, my notes for the defense are fairly short. I think that there's some few things you got to work on, secondary, but overall, I mean, Jaron Thompson looked great in the backfield. I don't like the fact that Auburn had 4 DBs in their top 5 tackle leaders. You got to get sacks, though. You got to get more sacks. You're getting pressure. You got to get sacks. But that does it for my offense and defense review. When we come back from this little break, I'm going to give my grades for the week and my players of the week, and then overall my thoughts on week 2 of college football. So leave your comments. I'll stay on as long as y'all need me to. I see Lawrence Robinson said we're still a run first team. I didn't feel like it yesterday. But we'll get back from this little ad break. I'll come back and finish out the show. So we'll be right back. Are you tired of having to rummage through just clothes after clothes after clothes looking for something to wear? Are you tired of your friends making fun of you for your terrible fashion sense? Well, do we have the shirt for you?
Go to thewarreport.com, get your laptop out and do it right now. Go to the shop and get your very own Feelin' Loopy t-shirt as well as your college loop hat, and you can get both of them for only $25 each. Plus shipping and handling, of course. But with that, now back to your regular scheduled program.
And of course, that is on thewarreport.com. Go to the shop. First page is the college loop hat. Second page is the Feelin' Loopy t-shirt. So go check those out. Most comfortable items of clothing you'll ever wear in your entire life. Halloween's coming up. What better to go as than a looper? Hashtag it's only week 2. So yeah, getting into my last little bits, and don't forget to leave your thoughts as well on the Auburn game. But going to my grades, offense is going to get an F. Offense flat out gets an F. Looking back at last year, going to throw it to the Big Ten for a little bit in Iowa. Iowa gave their OC a ultimatum. If you didn't get 24 points a game, you were gone. Auburn only put up 14 in this game. 14 points is not a lot, especially when you scored once in the first and once in the fourth. That's not a recipe for success. 4 interceptions, 5 turnovers in total. Jarquez Hunter fumbled the ball. Worst offensive performance I've seen in a hot minute. Offense is going to get a flat-out F. Defense, I struggle with this one a little bit. I wanted to give them a benefit of the doubt for how they played in the second half. They only gave up 7 points in total off without being off a turnover. I'm going to give the defense a C+. I think it's kind of in the middle. You had 2 bad halves, and you had 1 good half and 1 bad half. So I think C+ is kind of in the middle of everything. So you get a passing grade, but you started off too slow and ultimately gave up too much through the air. So yeah, C+ for the defense. Special teams, they don't get a grade. They do not get a grade. Muff punt and a missed field goal, not applicable for a grade for them. Offensive player of the week for the Tigers. I'm going to give it to Condre Lambert-Smith. Got a receiving touchdown, 2 catches, 30 yards, over 15 yards per catch. Thought about giving it to Cam Coleman, but after his 1 large gain in the first drive of the game, kind of wasn't a factor in the passing game, which was ultimately because of the play calling and how the scheme was fit for the passing attack. But yeah, I'm going to give it to Condre Lambert-Smith. Defensive player of the week, without a doubt, is Keldrick Falk. 8 tackles, 2 sacks, and 3 TFLs. Yeah, that was a great game for Keldrick Falk. Keldrick Falk is definitely playing. There's nothing I've seen Keldrick Falk that would tell me he's a sophomore. It's crazy to me how great he has played ever since as the season has started. Him and Jalen McLeod are a great 1-2 punch on the ends of the defensive line. Just the rest of the team to start picking up some slack with getting sacks with them. But yeah, defense player of the week goes to Keldrick Falk. D key. I'm not worried about the defense, wide receivers, or O-line until we get a new quarterback. And I also said we had 5 turnovers and only lost by 7. Our wide receivers were wide open. Thorne is the problem, period. We're an 8-win team, but not with Payton Thorne. I completely agree. What was put on film yesterday does not show me the 8-4 team I had predicted earlier in the season. What I saw yesterday was a team that I would be scared to put on the same field as Arkansas. A team that I'd be scared to put on the same field as Vanderbilt. Vanderbilt has Diego Pavia. We all know who Diego Pavia is. He's the guy who was at New Mexico State last year and gave Auburn every single bit of yards that he possibly could get. It gave Auburn so much problems, so many issues, and Auburn got curb stomped by New Mexico State. They got to play him again. And sometimes it fixes the offense. Venom might run us out of our own stadium. Lawrence Robinson. I meant we need to be a run first team. We have some passing capability, but we're not good in most pass situations. I agree with that. I agree with your statement as well. It just goes back to, I think they're wanting to show off what they have. I think that's what it is. You have back-to-back really good recruiting weekends, and you're hoping this one actually turned out good as well. I say back-to-back. You had major recruiting weekends, and you're trying to sell this team onto your future of future recruits or your future commits. I mean, you had Deuce Knight in the stands that had to sit there and watch this, and a lot of the recruits were kind of flabbergasted by what they saw on the field, and as they should be. I don't think a single fan in Jordan-Hare Stadium or watching the TV or wherever they were just listening to on radio, I don't think any Auburn fan was expecting that. Was expecting to even for there to even be a game at the end. And I don't think this kills Auburn recruiting. I think if Auburn continues to play like this, it does. But I don't think 1 week kills Auburn's momentum. You're still trying to get a quarterback. You're still trying to get more wide receivers. You're still trying to get offensive linemen. Start trying to get another running back. You're trying to still recruit these guys that, hey, this is not the team that we want to be. This is not the team that we're going to put on the field, hopefully ever again, but definitely not by the time you get here. That's what I'm hoping the messages to the recruits is, here's why we need you, is kind of what I'm wanting that to shift into. Teresa, we played them terrible last year and went on to play much better in most games. I'm hoping this was this year's New Mexico State and Freeze's one bad game. He should manage to win one that we shouldn't. But Hank needs at least half of the Mexico State game, so he's ready to come in if Arkansas or Oklahoma goes south. That's my thing with Hank Brown is I would love him to get the opportunity, but I think you need another bad game of Payton Thorne. I think you're going, but if you have another bad game of Payton Thorne, I'm not going to give New Mexico State. I think Auburn will beat New Mexico State strictly off talent and talent alone. And I know we should have won this game because of that, but this game, if he struggles against Arkansas, you're putting in a true freshman, give him that week for Oklahoma. Or say Payton Thorne has a bad game against Oklahoma, they somehow beat Arkansas and he struggles against Oklahoma. And do you go into the week of Georgia? When do you put in the true freshman? Which game do you throw him into? Do you throw him against Arkansas halfway through Arkansas game? Do you throw him in Oklahoma? Do you throw him again against Georgia? Do you wait till the bye week and throw him into Missouri? It's kind of, you're in the rough stretch of the season to get this. This would be the 1 week where he would have what should be an easy game, and then move on to Arkansas, where we'll have 2 weeks of practice and this with the ones. If anything, I would say go into this week splitting the load between them. I think you should at least prepare Hank Brown for the opportunities ahead. This is how I think. Let's see, Jay Flowers. Remember how JS used to feel the pressure and dump it off to Kerryon Johnson? Jarrett Stidham. Okay, Jarrett Stidham used to feel it's like he has 57 awareness. Yeah, Payton Thorne he doesn't make reads. He did not make reads against Cal. He did. I don't think there was a single play where I watched him and said, "Oh, he made a good read." I didn't see it. If we had a great quarterback, we would be 2023 LSU. We have more talent than 23 LSU. I don't know if we have more talent than 23 LSU. That was a pretty stacked wide receiver room that was well established in college football. I know that Auburn has the potential of that wide receiver room, but that LSU team was a top 50 defense away from winning a national championship last year. A downfield pass on 4th and 2 is why I question Thorne decision making. Take the checkdowns. Yeah, I think there was. I've seen so many videos and pictures of open receivers that Payton Thorne ignored. A lot of those guys were Keandre Lambert-Smith. A lot of those plays, they put him on a slant route across the middle of the field, and instead of dumping it off or looking at Jerkwitz Hunter right there, as Jay just said earlier, you just took the shot down the field and gave the ball back to Cal. I don't understand that. Galatian, Thorne is garbage. He's a fifth-year senior who still makes freshman mistakes. Completely agree that he still makes those mistakes. You expect a fifth-year senior to make the reads that he needs to make. New Mexico can't stop the run. We would focus on our run game and mix in the pass. That'd be the perfect opportunity. Yeah, I mean, New Mexico has been playing a lot of teams close. If we're not careful with their quarterback, Devin Dampierre. I hope I'm saying his name right. But what I've seen from him, he is a dual threat mastermind. He could be the next Diego Pavia, and the plays that he makes just kind of all over the place, able to make defenders miss and get down the field quickly. That's why they were so close against Arizona, because of him. I think it was 2 weeks ago. But yeah, I'm until I see Payton Thorne make reads, I'm going to be worried about whoever, because I think that you could see another Alabama A&M level play calling game against Mexico. Just kind of show off one more time. DK L. Robinson KSL was wide open, crossing Thorne's face. Easy to say Freeze shouldn't have called that on 4th down, but it was 2 receivers wide open for easy touchdowns. Completely agree. Teresa, that's why he at least needs half of the next game, and then if PT isn't lights out, then try Hank Brown and see what happens. Yeah. Hank Brown, I think that Hugh Freeze is going to stand by his guy so much to a fault that I don't know if we'll see Hank Brown get in this game until the game is very well in hand for Auburn. And at that point, you're just kind of saying, well, he's played well against their tired team again in the second half when Auburn was up by 40. But I think you should definitely talk. The conversation should be had with the coaching staff. Thorne is incapable of quickly going through progressions and quickly making accurate throws. He either holds the ball too long or panics and takes off. That goes back to my point again. Payton Thorne should never be getting 15 carries a game. Payton Thorne should never be getting more than 7-8 carries a game that aren't, designed to read option or anything. It should never be happening. Thorne should not be playing like he is a dual threat quarterback. He played like an RPO quarterback. He should be playing like he's a run first dual threat quarterback. Should not be happening, especially when you have running backs who can run the ball a lot better than Payton Thorne can. Lawrence Robinson, we're playing New Mexico, not New Mexico State. I'm probably going to get those mixed up a lot throughout the week just because they're so close in name. But New Mexico has been playing teams close. They have been. New Mexico State last year was a good team. I'll give them that. They were one of the better G5 teams. And that's why Auburn's trying to struggle with them a lot, because they had built up such a transfer heavy class that it kind of worked out for them too well. That they lost a few games and kind of kept them from being. That team could have been ranked if a couple of games had gone their way. Because I think they went 8-4. I think that's what they went. But New Mexico, trying to think of who they played yesterday. I don't even know who they played yesterday. Because I know they played Arizona week 1. But I don't know who they played yesterday. If my thing will finish. They played against. Did they not play last week? Am I crazy? They played week 0. Okay, they had a bye week. So they have a bye week for us. But yeah, they played Montana. They lost Montana State and they played close to Arizona until the end of the game. So yeah. Yeah. Okay. So they have a bye week for Auburn. So they definitely got some film on how to get to Auburn's, how to stranglehold Auburn's offense. But yeah, I am eagerly awaiting tomorrow. And kind of getting to my thoughts on college football from yesterday too, because that's what I love to do about these live streams, is kind of talk about what happened yesterday outside of just Auburn in general, and then we kind of get out of here if we need to talk about anything else, because I think this entire thing is sum up everything. Conversation to be had with Hugh Freeze about Payton Thorne. Someone's going to have to ask the question tomorrow. Someone has to ask that question tomorrow if there is a plan to move on to Hank Brown. If there's been a conversation to be had at that too. Just, is there a thought in the world behind Hugh Freeze that maybe, just maybe, it might be Hank Brown's turn with the team? But yesterday, watching college football, I had about 6 screens on. Outside of the 2:30 slot of games, I enjoyed my day very much so. I watched Michigan get it handed to by Texas, which was awesome. I love watching Michigan lose, especially after what they did last year. Colorado also lost by a lot of points to Nebraska, and Shedeur Sanders was able to throw his offensive line under the bus, which was hilarious. But I do not like the fact that Nebraska is doing well, or getting a lot of recognition from the media. They are now ranked in the AP poll, Nebraska is, and I don't like that because I don't like Matt Rule as a Panthers fan, which I did not enjoy watching the Panthers play today either. I also determined that Texas and Georgia, when they play, are going to determine who the national champion is this year. I think those two are the best 2 teams in the country. Alabama, I'll talk about them last, actually, because I have a hot take for them. Kentucky is bad, but somehow worse than I thought. I was never on the Kentucky hype train, but I'm not surprised in the slightest. They kind of showed themselves a little bit. Also, kind of surprised by what I saw from Oregon and what I saw from Penn State. Oregon definitely had a very bad showcase against Boise State, but Boise State was very good 2 weeks ago whenever they broke a record. I think Ashton Jeanty broke the record. So, yeah. I'm going to also say I don't know what's going on in Penn State either. But my big hot take with Alabama is I think Alabama's going to lose a couple of games this year. Alabama's going to lose a few games. That team did not look like a team that should be top 5 in the country yesterday. They didn't move down from the AP poll. That Bama team did not look good in the slightest. Notre Dame lost in NIU, which was also hilarious. That's kind of my analytical standpoint, is how hilarious that is. But yeah, those are my big thoughts from yesterday's college football world. I'm currently 16-4 in my predictions for the pregame show on Thursdays. To Tuesday's show, I will be giving my power rankings and reacting to Hugh Freeze's press conference. Galatian, I do not know what time it is. I think it's I want to say it was at 11-ish last time around, if I'm not mistaken. It was like 11 or 12, somewhere around there. It might have been 11 to 1. Somewhere in that time span, it starts. I'm trying to remember exactly what time it is. I'm looking at last week's press conference, but it does not have a time that it got posted on. Because usually it says it, but it does not now. But sometime in the late morning, early afternoon phase. Like, it's going to happen, and it'll be live streamed. I think AL.com does it live. I think Warport sometimes does it live. A lot of people live stream this, and this could be one of the most watched press conferences that we've seen in a hot minute. But with that, I'm going to kind of wrap up the show with that. Believe me, Tuesday, we will have a lot to say about what Hugh Freeze had to say. So bear with me as we get through another episode of the College Loop where we're going to talk about the quarterback situation again. Same issue as last year where every week is about the quarterback battles. It's only week 2 and we're already talking about quarterback changes, which is not what you want to see. But hopefully something will shift in the right direction, whether Payton Thorne finds out that he can be a good quarterback or Hank Brown steps in and takes over for the offense. But with that being said, I'm Dylan Larck on Twitter. Follow me on Instagram as well at Dylan Larck at DYLENLARCK. Visual aids right here from my Instagram and right there from my Twitter page. Tweet at me, make fun of me for saying it's only week 2 on the Warport stream because everyone's already doing that, which is hilarious to me, and I really enjoy it so much. Not sarcasm, even though it sounds like it. Follow me on the College Loop as well at the College Loop on Twitter, TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, the works, all those at the College Loop. War Eagle, anyways. Make sure to check out the audio version of the show as well. But with all that being said, thanks for watching some of the College Loop podcast. We'll be back on Tuesday to talk about Hugh Freeze's press conference, catch up with some Auburn athletics news, and, of course, power rank the SEC with an updated look. Just so you know, Auburn was at 9 last week. Auburn will not be at 9 this week. A little spoiler alert, that one. I don't know what number it is yet, but it will not be 9. But, of course, that being said, this has been the 249th installment of the College Loop podcast. And, as always, War Eagle, and I'll see you next time.